My name is Valerie Obazi and I am the CEO and founder of R&R Skincare. We are a natural skincare brand based in Ghana where all of our raw materials come from, and we're available globally. I wasn't the smartest child in the room. I knew that there was more out there. I just hadn't figured out how to get it. I gave them to friends and family to try out, and I said, if you like it, come back and buy more. And they came back, everybody did, and that's the genesis of how the company started. And then the hard work came. I've never been the girl that wants to go and ask my husband for money to go and get my hair done or go and get my nails done. So since I started the brand in 2010, just had my first child. I had my second child December 2011, and I had my third child November 2013. And I opened my first store in July 2013, which is in Lagos, and it's still there. You're not thinking that the war in Palestine is going to affect you in Accra. Some people will think that it's very straightforward. Let me just go to the market, buy some Shea Butter, let me go and buy some packaging, slap a label on it, and I'll sell it. It's not that easy. Like I explained, you have to be sure of the source of your raw material, how it was produced. Was it produced in sanitary environment? Could there be cross-contamination? It all seems simple until you realize that you can fly under the radar and sell your products, not comply and not get the certification and all of those things, but there's only so far you're gonna go. I don't mean to put anyone off. If you want to do it, start. Go and find the manufacturers, go to the source, go and meet the people that you're buying the raw material from, see how they produce. Don't stop when challenges come your way. Just address them as they come and move on. Know that more will come. It's not everybody that is for you. You know, some people don't like shea butter, some people don't like black soap. I'm honestly sharing Africa's original, indigenous, exclusive, in some cases, ingredients. The shea tree only grows in Africa. You cannot get shea anywhere else in the world, like nowhere. It's exclusive to Africa. So for a long time, we were made to believe that nothing good comes from Africa, that Africa's all about war, it's all about famine, it's all about corruption. But there's so much more to Africa than that. The people that think my business is successful because I was the president's daughter, I'd say that my name is Valerie Obazi and I am the CEO and founder of R&R Skincare. We are a natural skincare brand based in Ghana where all of our raw materials come from, and we're available globally. I started the brand at the age of 30. In 2010. I'm now 45. I just moved from London to Lagos. I just had my first child actually when I started the company. I needed something natural to use on her skin, and I wanted access to a finished product, but I just couldn't find what I was looking for, even though I was in Lagos in Nigeria, which is in Africa, which is the home of these amazing ingredients. I couldn't find something on the shelves that was made locally. Everything was imported, and a lot of the products were just full of synthetic ingredients, and I wanted something 100% natural. So I had to make it myself. The fact that I couldn't find what I was looking for, my background is in PR and marketing, and I don't know if I thought to myself that I was going to create my own brand. Knowing that I was looking for something that I couldn't find, I started doing my research to see how I could create something that if I needed it, other people would want it. And like I said, being in Africa, it's the home of shea butter. You're kind of used to just getting it in its raw form, and it's not that attractive to everybody, right? It's an amazing ingredient. It's used in so many beauty products internationally. We just wanted to give it respect that it deserves as an ingredient, and I wanted to create something that could go and sit on the shelves in the store anywhere in the world and would be 100% natural, good for my baby, good for my use, my whole family, basically. So I started doing my research and learning. My background is not in manufacturing, okay? I come from background in PR, worked in PR agencies, in music, then I went on to consumer, worked in fashion, worked in beauty. I knew what a beauty product should look like, and I wanted to create something that was as good as anything that I had represented in the past, but also wanted to make sure that the contents also were amazing and So I just started doing my research, went out there, tried different products, different blends. I learned about mixing essential oils. Again, I wanted to use only pure essential oils, not synthetic fragrances, so that everything was pure. So I did some online courses and in-person courses as well about blending essential oils, what they do, not only for your skin, but for your mental health, because aromatherapy is big as well. So once you're using these essential oils, they should also have some effect on your senses. So I did a lot of learning around that, created my own blends, mixed and blended them with the natural shea butter, and that's where the brand started. So the next step after kind of teaching myself how to make these products and using them on my skin and my baby to make sure that they were okay, we had to start looking for packaging. I went online and most of the companies I found were selling packaging in bulk, like 10,000 pieces. And when you start a business, how am I going to go and use 10,000 bottles? Like that's betting on yourself, but betting on yourself a bit early. One of the suppliers I reached out to said, look, we resell to this other company who sell by the carton, who sell by the box load. So call them, see what their catalog has and pick something from there. So grateful to them for sharing that information with me. I went to the other company, bought a box of empty bottles. They had a catalog of some nice different things, and I chose something really very classy and different, and which are these square plastic PET bottles with a black cap. There was no Instagram. So I went on Facebook and I said, does anyone know a graphic designer? I need someone to come up with a logo. A couple of people reached out to me and I picked one guy who was a friend of a friend. I told him, what I was looking for. I named the company after my daughter, who I just had at the time. Her name's Rebecca Rose. We called it R&R. I think my husband came up with the name, actually, not myself. He's like, oh, why don't you call it R&R? And I said, okay, that's not bad. It also has other meanings like rest and recuperation or rest and recovery. And I felt that what we were bringing to the table was something that made you feel rested. And so I just asked them to create a logo for me. I went to the printers, had it printed out, stuck the label on the bottle, and started producing our products. And after that, I gave them to friends and family to try out. And I said, if you like it, come back and buy more. Come back and buy, because I'd given it to them for free. And they came back. Everybody did. And that's the genesis of how the company started. And then the hard work came, because you realize you can't just create a beauty product and put it out there and, just sell it to people without having it tested and without having the right approvals from the right authorities. We were at a party, my husband's in-laws. I met somebody that worked for the Food and Drugs Authority for Nigeria at the time, and I said, look, I'm starting this brand. It's really good. It's getting good feedback. I need to get the certification. What do I need to do? And literally in the party, she said, go and get paper and pen. And she gave me the list of all of the requirements to be able to be approved by NAFDAC. And that was the beginning of making sure that we had all the compliance. That process was actually really long, very expensive, very tiring, but we did get there in the end. But even they were like, go and get proof of concept, make sure that people want to buy this product. But in the meantime, we were setting up our own mini factory to make sure that we could comply. So it left my kitchen and my dining table. It was kind of taking over my house. And then we converted my mother-in-law's garage into our mini factory. We turned it into like a 4-room factory, which was a requirement. It had to follow a specific flow. So we did all of that. And again, on a budget. This is once we knew that we had a viable product. And so we turned it into a factory, and then we started the process of getting certified. Obviously, I said that we were giving it to our friends and family, and they came back and purchased. And then I was reading this magazine. It's a Sunday magazine that you get in Nigeria called This Day Style. And I saw this one-page profile on this lady called Bola. She'd just opened a beauty store in Lagos. She'd moved from either the UK or America. And she'd opened this beauty store called Blush. And she wanted to be Nigerian version of Sephora, which was a multi-brand beauty store. And she was going to bring in all these amazing brands from abroad and make them accessible to people in Nigeria and to Lagos. I got the address and I went down there and I took samples. And I was like, hi, I introduced myself to her. In fact, I think I even reached out on Twitter. I found her on Twitter at the time and I reached out. We arranged a meeting. I went down there to go and give her the products. And I was like, look, I don't have a store myself, but I have these products that I've started making and selling. They're doing really well. I think that they would do well in your store. And she loved it, accepted it, and put them on the shelves. So that was our first retail partner. After that, this online marketplace came about called Jumia, which was kind of like the African Amazon. Again, found out where their office was, went down there to meet the buying team and showed them the products. They agreed to take them onto the website, gave me their terms and conditions. At this point now I had outlets to sell because I didn't have my own store. We didn't have our own online store either. We were in Blush and Jumia, and we started marketing ourselves online. So from Facebook, then Instagram came along around 2012, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, yeah. And we started marketing the brand on there and just creating a buzz. Thankfully, with my background in PR, I kind of know how to get the word out about a product, and it worked for me. I was still managing my PR career at the same time. I was working as a freelancer with different brands in the fashion space mostly. So I was managing that and working on this brand and being a new mum as well. So it was quite exciting and busy times. And Lagos is such a dynamic city, and I'm so glad we actually started there because the reception was amazing. When I created the product, I'd imagined I was creating something that was going to go abroad. It was for export only because, of course, all Africans know about Shea Butter, right? They don't need someone to come and sell it to them. Funny enough, I solved a problem for people that wanted to use Shea but didn't want it in its raw form, or they wanted to know it was coming from a place that had transparency and were interested in compliance and making sure that the ingredients were clean and well prepared and all of that stuff. So it turned out that, you know, the local market wanted it as well. So I really was surprised by that and grateful, to the point where I didn't even get the chance till many years down the line to start working on my export plan. I wasn't the smartest child in the room, that's for sure. I wasn't the ace all the time kind of child. I was okay, I was average, and I struggled with that sometimes, but at other times I was just like, okay, that's the situation. But I was always very opinionated, and I was always ready to put my hand up and give my opinion, and often it would be right, but it would be the academic, textbook, exam kind of student that wasn't really me. I was more kind of into immersive learning. So when it came to drama, creative writing, that kind of stuff I was really good at. But when it came to just the typical textbook, read, write, it wasn't what I was really interested in. I was always looking to do more. I was leading the dance clubs and doing all those kinds of things. And I wouldn't say I was a sportiest, but I took part in everything. Every day of the week, I had something to do after school, whether it was brownies, drama club, ballet, tap, everything that was going, I would sign up for it. So I was one of those people that would just try everything and see what sticks. And it also meant that I had quite a large friendship group because I was on the netball team, I was on the rounders team, I was in athletics, I was doing all things, and I was never the best at any of them, but I always made sure I took part, and I always got picked to be part of it as well. So, and every instrument going, I did guitar, violin, clarinet, everything, which is quite different to the kids today. My kids these days, you have to beg them to be part of stuff, but I was ready to do all of that. So I think that is a reflection of me as an adult. I'm not everywhere, but I always want to give something a try. I'm always ready to learn more. I was a reader. I loved reading books. You'd catch me in a corner or in the car, even in the dark, you know, I'd have the light on and be reading at night instead of sleeping. I was reading books. And I mean, that was fiction when I was younger. Enid Blyton, like Famous Five, Mallory Towers, Secret Seven, all the fun books. I was into all of them. Love reading now, if given the opportunity. I'm a lot busier, and now we have our phones and Netflix and all of these things that kind of take up our time, but I do try and make an effort to still get into a book. I've actually made that a goal, to read a book a month, and now I'm more into self-help, business, biographies, and I do a bit of fiction from time to time, but normally it's non-fiction for me. And I think the inner child in me always wanted more than what I could see. I knew that there was more out there. I just hadn't figured out how to get it. So that's why I think I was trying everything so that I could find that thing that really stoked my passion. My love for things and trying different things was actually my superpower. And that's what led to me being my own boss. Even when I went into the working world, I was always thinking, you know, where next? You know, not jumping from job to job, but what can I do next? What's in the future for me? Where do I see myself going? I used to hate it when like my bosses would say, okay, Valerie, what do you think is next? What's your plan? I'd have to come up with something and say, I really want to move up in this business and become a manager and whatever. When really, I think deep down, I knew that my plan was to break out on my own time, you couldn't tell your boss that, could you? Because they're not going to promote you. They're not going to look at you seriously if they think that any minute you're going to want to do your own thing and maybe take their clients with you. So I always used to just say, oh, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I'd like to try this or that and hope to be promoted so you could get paid more and have more responsibility. But essentially, I know that deep down my dream was to be my own boss. And I didn't come from a family of people that necessarily work for themselves. So I don't know where I got that idea from or that passion. It was just something that was in me. I've had a job since I was 14 years old because I like my independence and I like my freedom. I had pocket money. I had, a parent that was looking after me and had a roof over my head and gave me everything that I needed. But before I was old enough to get a job, I asked my mom that, look, can you cut my lunch money in half? If you save up X amount of pounds at the end of the month, bulk it together and hand it to me, and it's free for me to do whatever I want to do with it. You can't tell me what to do with it. It's my money. And she was like, oh, okay, if that's what you want, and that's what I did. So I survived on half the lunch money that I was used to, and at the end of the month I'd have my money and do what I want to do with it. And then I remember my maths tutor for GCSE, he had a part-time job in a restaurant, and I asked him, I said, look, am I too young to work there? Are there any jobs going there? He said, oh no, they do hire young people. I'm talking, I was 14 years old. They do hire young people as table cleaners on the weekend. You can't even be a waitress at that age. So the only thing you could do was after people have finished eating, before they seat the next people, they had people come around and sit at the table. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And I went for an interview, I got the job. It was this place called Rendezvous Cafe in Brent Cross Shopping Centre in northwest London. And I used to work on Saturday and Sunday for £2.50 an hour. I used to get paid every week. And again, that money was mine to do what I wanted to do with it. And I liked nice things. Two of my aunts worked in this designer store in St. John's Wood. And so we always knew what designer brands were because they were always decked out in them. Sometimes my cousins would have designer clothes. I would have the odd thing here and there too. And it was a big thing to wear designers. There was this brand, it's still around now, called Moschino. It was huge in the 90s with the urban culture, black culture. There were different brands that were big, and Moschino was one of those brands. And I went to this shop in Brent Cross and bought myself a pair of jeans for £80. It was my money. No one gave me the money to go buy it. So I was very proud walking in there, bought these pair of jeans, walked out, and they sat in the carrier bag in my bedroom for months. Every time I went to wear them, I was like, are you sure you want to wear these jeans? They cost so much money, And I'll say, no, I'll wait for a better occasion. I'll wait for another occasion. I'll wait for another occasion. Eventually, I didn't wear them anywhere. And I was like, you know what? I want my money back. I spent £80 of my own money. Imagine I was earning £2.50 an hour. So you know how many hours it would take for me to be able to buy those. And I went back and I took them back. I still had the receipt in the bag. I took them back and got my money back. And I just thought, I'll spend my money on those things when I have more, If I'm buying one of those things, I should be able to buy several, not that it's going to finish my complete savings by doing that. So I think I learned responsibility as well at a young age. And I taught it to myself, if you listen to that story, because it was my money to do what I wanted to do with it. But I did what I wanted. But I think something deep inside told me that this is not reality. You can't really afford those jeans. So go and take them back, let that money stretch further and do something else with it. And ever since that first job, I've had several jobs. I've worked in all the places. And it's not because I needed to help my mum pay rent or anything like that. It's just because I wanted independence. I don't like, if I want something, I have to ask somebody for the money. It's not in me. Even as a married woman, I like to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Of course, within reason, but I've never been the girl that wants to go and ask my husband for money to go and get my hair done or go and get my nails done or whatever. Even though I'm sure he would happily give it to me, I'd rather be self-sufficient in that respect and be able to do things and do my part as well towards the household. So I think all those lessons as a child have definitely followed me into adulthood and has led me to where I am now. A typical day in my working life is not typical at all. As an entrepreneur, of course, when I was working for other people, my day was typical. Get to work at 9, leave at 5, do the bits in between. And, at the beginning, I was producing. I was making the products that I was selling. And my husband was also part of that right at the beginning. And we were learning. I had, mentors in the industry that were teaching me how to do the things. My suppliers were showing me where to get things from, and I was producing myself. And then when it got big enough, I started getting a team together to do the production, and then I was doing the marketing and the selling, and We opened a store as well in 2013. I was actually pregnant with my third child at that time. So since I started the brand in 2010, just had my first child. I had my second child December 2011, and I had my third child November 2013, and I opened my first store in July 2013, which was in Lagos, and it's still there now to this day. And like I've said, my roles are many. I'm a wife, I'm a mother to 3 children, and they're 3 female teenagers, 1 preteen. There's a lot going on. I could be at work, sitting at my desk. I've written out all my to-dos. I have all my actions. I'm ticking them off. The day's going fantastically. And then one of them calls me up and says, "Mummy, I need you. Come home." Or, "Mum, I need to go to the hair salon and get my hair done because blah, blah, blah." And that can upend my day. I can just be like, okay, gotta go. Or something comes up and I have to be there. But ultimately in the workplace, something could happen in the factory. I don't know, power could go out in the factory, or there could be a leakage, or there could be an accident. We've not, thankfully, had any major accidents, even though we work in manufacturing. But anything can happen, and then all of a sudden everything else is on the back burner, and now you're focusing on something else. Or somebody could come on Instagram and their delivery didn't arrive on time. And not that I would necessarily be the one to deal with it, but once I know that that's happening, I'm definitely going to inquire and find out, why did they not get their delivery, or why did they get the wrong delivery? What are we doing about it? What are the steps to fix that? I just don't think there's a typical day. In my ideal typical day, I come in the morning, sit down, write out my to-dos, write out my, most important actions of the day, and then start ticking them off, get everything done, go through my emails, answer all the relevant stuff, grow the business, do some learning. If I get the opportunity to have an hour to check out what's happening in the beauty space or in the African entrepreneurship market, see what I can do to enhance the business, take it to the next level. Every day is different. I've faced so many challenges, and I face the challenge probably almost every day in running a business. One of the main ones that we faced was breaks in our supply chain. We work with a lot of different suppliers, and a lot of them are like rural farmers. And maybe they'll go through a stage of having low cash flow, so they're not able to produce, or maybe there's a low crop yield, so they're not able to do the numbers that they're used to doing. And we'd have situations where like some of our best-selling products would be off the shelves for months because our suppliers were not able to give us the supply. And you should always have a pool of suppliers, not just one. But in one of the ingredients that we used at the time when we started, it was quite rare. And so we really literally had one supplier. And when that supplier didn't have supply, we were in trouble. And this lasted years. I don't mean the break in supply lasted years, but consistently it would be fine, and then there would be an issue. We'd get supply and then there would be a break. So we didn't have the cash flow to be able to buy huge bulk amounts to store up for when that happened. So it was quite scary, and we were always living on the edge when that happened. But with time, we've managed to create a larger pool of supply. And also eventually, after 7 years, we decided to build our own processing centers so that we could process our own raw materials and kind of mitigate that happening, even though it gives us a whole new set of challenges, because when you create your own processing center, you're working with a whole new group of people, sometimes hundreds of women in the rural community. You've got all this machinery that you've set up. Things are going to go wrong. Fires, literal fires happen when things have not been installed properly. Sometimes you have a dry season and your lemongrass doesn't grow quick enough, or it dries out and you can't blend it, and all kinds of things can happen. We were having an event in the US and we did air freight to make sure the stuff would get there on time. When it arrived in the US, it was held by the Department for Agriculture, and they needed us to provide some information before they'd release it. And this time I was on a flight, so I couldn't do any of that. So our freight forwarder, who was receiving it there, couldn't get hold of us, couldn't provide the information. We had an event coming up. Thankfully, when we landed, we got on the email, spoke to our team, got them to provide everything. It was still very critical. Like, there was a possibility we were going to do this event, this huge pop-up that we've been planning and grateful to have the opportunity for, and have no product to take to it. But to be honest, I wasn't worried. I knew that God would fix it, and of course he did. My team there were like, okay, so what's the backup plan in case this doesn't happen. I said, look, we brought some products with us, but don't worry, this is going to come through, so you don't need to panic. But those are the kind of challenges you face, no matter how organized you try to be and try and get things done on time. Something can happen to create a delay in supply. All of these wars and conflicts that are taking place around the world affect shipping. So your supply chain, where container from China to Ghana would usually take 4 weeks, it was taking 8 weeks, and it was costing 3 times the amount that a container would cost. You're selling your product for this price, but all of a sudden you're spending so much more on having the packaging shipped over from China because there's a war in the Middle East. And you wouldn't factor those things in when you're, ordering your packaging or thinking about your brand or sorting out your pricing. You're not thinking that the war in Palestine is going to affect you in Accra. And that's been a major challenge in the past. You might have a product that affects someone negatively, and maybe their skin, they're allergic to shea nuts. That's rare, but it exists. And so you've got to figure out what you're going to do when that person, says that, oh, this didn't work for me. And you're always, worried and on edge. And you follow all the due process and make sure that everything is made properly. But that could happen and send you into, a tailspin thinking, oh God, everything is a mess. There's just so much that goes into producing this. And I just think that people underestimate how much we do to get that finished bottle to you in your bathroom. But that's none of their business, is it? We just need to provide them with a good finished product. But yeah, along the way, we are putting out fires and fixing things and begging people and asking people to give us grace on payments or on missing paperwork or, whatever it is. There's a lot of work going on. It's like, the ducks, or is it swans, that you see them above and they look so graceful and everything's perfect, but underneath their feet are doing that because they're just trying to stay afloat. And that's what business can feel like sometimes. But other times it's all so smooth sailing. The reviews are great. The orders are coming in. The people are saying nice things. And you're like, oh, great, this is a good business, The money's coming in, the tills are ticking over, and it all makes it worthwhile. And you see the people that work for you, the people that work with you, and they're able to feed their families and educate their children. And you're like, okay, this is why I'm doing it. Other times you're just like, what is this? Why am I doing this? When you look at the bigger picture, it does all make sense. Some people will think that it's very straightforward. Let me just go to the market, buy some shea butter. Let me go and buy some packaging, slap a label on it, and I'll sell it. It's not that easy. Like I explained, you have to be sure of the source of your raw material, how it was produced. Was it produced in sanitary environment? Could there be cross-contamination? How long has it been on the shelf for? Could it be going rancid? Could you be selling something to someone that's out of date? In some countries, to be certified to sell skincare, your packaging needs to be food safe. The levels of compliance are so high in some parts of the world that even though you're not ingesting the product, they want the packaging to be safe for food. It all seems simple until you realize that you can fly under the radar and sell your products, not comply and not get the certification and all of those things, but there's only so far you're going to go. I don't mean to put anyone off. If you want to do it, start. Go and find the manufacturers, go to the source, go and meet the people that you're buying the raw material from, see how they produce. That's not a big deal. You could get on a bus or get on a flight, 1 hour flight from Accra to Tamale and go and meet. There's many people that produce shea. Go and see the person that you vibe with, that you like their energy, that you like the way they produce. You think that they're good business people, they'll be able to supply. You can buy 1 kg of shea butter and start your business, or buy 1 box which is 25 kg and start your business. There's low barriers to entry. Everything that we do, what we've learned along the lines is that quality management systems are in place not for you, the producer, they're for your customer. Everything you do has to have the end user in mind. Pretend that you're the customer when you're creating this. How will I feel if I know that you just went and picked this shea butter up from the market and you don't know the source of it or how long it's been sitting under the hot sun for, whether it's melted, solidified again before it was sold to you? How would you feel if you were the customer buying that? If you have them in mind, you're always going to strive for excellence. Of course, you'll never reach perfection, but at least if you strive for excellence in everything you do, you'll eventually get there. Don't stop when challenges come your way. Just address them as they come and move on. Know that more will come. It's not everybody that is for you. You know, some people don't like shea butter, some people don't like black soap. You can go ahead and do it in a simple fashion, or you can put all the bells and whistles on and make sure that you have all of the certifications to do what you're doing. And that's where you'll be able to grow, because no investor, no retailer is going to buy into your product if they don't know for sure the source of it, and you know, you have the full transparency of your supply chain. You can do it small and sell to friends and family, cottage industry they call it, handmade. That's cute. But, you know, if you want to aim for bigger, you have to make sure that you are crossing off all the paperwork and doing all the right things. And no one expects you to get that all right at the beginning. Even the regulators don't expect you to, because it's an investment. You're going to spend money. Each and every product has to be certified. Are you sure that people are going to buy this product? Make sure you've got proof of market first, and then go ahead and do the regulatory stuff and grow your brand. Yeah, I have a marketing background. That gave me an advantage for sure. I know how to do PR, but bear in mind that PR in the early 2000s is not what PR is in 2025. There aren't that many publications. Then it was about getting into the magazines, into Vogue, into the weeklies, into the newspapers. And I moved from London to Lagos to Ghana, where newspapers don't really push consumer products. It's news. That's all you're getting in the newspapers. But in England, there was always like, you know, beauty and fashion pages, and people read those and they'd read it and then they would go and buy. It would be literal cause and effect. But in the later 2000s, the early 2000s, things started to change. Social media became a big thing, and it's been growing and growing and growing. And there's some people that their brand exists purely on social media. It doesn't exist anywhere else. And so you're very lucky to have that free platform to market your products to customers. And if you remember, like I said, my first customers were people I gave free product to. I said, friends and family, here's this product that I've tested on myself and my children. It's amazing. If you like it, come back and buy more. And that's how I started my business. That's how you go about getting customers. Believe in what you're selling. Don't sell something that you yourself will never ever use or you'll never believe in. Go out, reach out to people in your community, share it with them and see if they'll come back. And then you can then offer it to a wider audience. Having a team is key when you're growing, but at the beginning, you better start on your own, because why are you going to create expenses for yourself that you don't necessarily need straight away? I mean, some people start a business already raising money before the business has even started. Depends on the nature of the business. But if it's something that you can take on the finances yourself to begin with, I'd advise that. Keep your job going so that you have income, and start doing this on the side, start building the brand, start getting customers until it's big enough for you to leave your job. And then at the point where you can't do it by yourself, you start bringing in individual team members. Some of my early team members, my first one was my husband, and he'll tell you that I fired him, which I didn't, but he has other things to do, you know, didn't have to be there pouring, you know, oil into bottles with me. One of my first members of staff was someone that worked in his office, and she became like an assistant runner for me, and she would go and meet with the suppliers, she would go and deliver products to people, collect money, go to the bank, that type of thing. And so it was a junior level runner essentially. And then when we opened the store, of course, we were going to need a full-time retail person. I could work in the shop, but you also needed somebody that was there full-time, because remember, I'm a mom. I have my role as a freelance PR consultant and clients that I was taking care of. So I had to hire someone full-time to work in the store. But it was like, as the need came along, then I bring someone in. I've been the marketer, I've been the accountant, I've been the salesperson, the cleaner, production manager, I've been the quality control manager, I've been the admin assistant. I've done everything on that organogram myself. Once it becomes a situation where I can't do it all, bit by bit, I bring the members of the team in that I need. Being an entrepreneur has taught me that I have purpose. Like I said, when I was younger, I was average at most things. Average in the class, average in sports, average in music, which is not a bad thing, but I never knew, you know, some people had amazing talents. They could sing, or they could play instruments really well, or they were an amazing footballer, or they were this wonderful equestrian. And I forgot to mention that I used to ride horses as well. And I was just that girl that tried everything. I wasn't great at any of them, but I was okay. I was mid-level. Being an entrepreneur has taught me that I'm good at something. Just by virtue of keeping this company going for nearly 15 years tells me that I had a purpose on this earth, and not just being a mother or a wife. There is something outside of that gives me a reason to get up every day and get up and go to work and have a team and all of these things. Be talking to you guys now, it's all part of my greater purpose, and I think I learned that from being an entrepreneur. I don't know if I can think of a particular moment of wonder. This business has really been a real labor of love and step by step, just putting one foot in front of the other. So many great things have happened, don't get me wrong. We've had features in some of the world's best publications, Vogue magazine, Style magazine in the UK. One of our first awards was won in Nigeria, this magazine, women's magazine called Genevieve magazine. We've gone on to win several awards after that, being called to be a speaker on panels, talking about how I built my brand. A time when Forbes magazine called me an African skincare trailblazer. And these are all great things, but they happen because I just put one foot in front of the other every single day. Having people coming into my store and buying, not knowing me, but buying my products, or when I meet people for the first time and I get introduced to someone and they're like, oh, this is Valerie, she owns this company R&R. They're like, what? I know R&R. I've been using it for years, or my babies use it, or, that kind of thing. Those are moments of wonder, and they happen on a regular basis, and they do give you that validation that make you think, okay, there's a point to this. Sometimes my children, because sometimes the job requires me to be abroad for weeks. Maybe I've gone to speak on a panel and then I followed that with a pop-up. Something else has come up and it's taken me out of the country and I'm away from my children. And I was having mum guilt, which is a real thing, And then I'll speak to my kids and they'll just say that how proud they are of me and how they want to be like me when they grow up, or they want to be entrepreneurs or have their own business or be successful. And I mean, success is defined differently by everybody. Knowing that my kids look at me and think, that's my mom, that's really heartwarming, and it is wonderful to have that. But sometimes I'm sure they prefer for me to just be available to them at all times so that I can do everything that they want me to do. But I think I'm teaching them a valuable lesson as well. They're women, or they will be women, they're young ladies, and they're learning that you can also start something from nothing and build it up to become something. And of course, it's still a journey. We're not at the end of our journey. It's ongoing. So I believe that I'll have many, many moments of wonder to come. But yeah, I think it's in the little things. It's in the little bits of validation that you pick up that are not even huge matters. It could just be a simple acknowledgement that I know R&R Skincare and it's great. I'm inspired by so many different things. I don't think there's any one thing that inspires me. Of course, I'm inspired by being a mother, doing the best that I can do for my children, financially, but also in life lessons. I'm inspired by so many things and so many different people. It could be the most basic thing that inspires me today. I love being African and I love living in Africa. I grew up in the UK. I was born in London. But I always, if anyone ever asked me, I was Ghanaian. If you said to me, where are you from? And in London, you know what that means when they say, where are you from? They mean, which part of London are you from? North London or West London or South London? I'd say, I'm from Ghana. And they're like, no, what do you mean? You're from London. I'm like, yes, I was born here, but I'm Ghanaian. I've always been very proud of who I am and where I'm from. And I used to come home all the time. And so when I got the opportunity to move back here, it's been such an eye-opener. And I think I came at the right time because so many people were moving back and doing great things. The landscape has changed so much and it requires Ghanaians to do that, or people in the diaspora, or, Africans in general. I lived in Lagos first before I even lived in Ghana. And it was such an interesting dynamic because being Ghanaian, I understood the Africanness. Lagos was a completely different city to Accra and the dynamics were so different. But at the same time, we were still the same. I just love being among my people and I love to watch it grow. And what I'm doing might seem frivolous to some, like, oh, beauty products, what's the big deal? I'm honestly sharing Africa's original, indigenous, exclusive, in some cases, ingredients. Like the shea tree only grows in Africa. You cannot get shea anywhere else in the world, like nowhere. It's exclusive to Africa. So by sharing that bit of the continent with the rest of the world and them accepting it and using it, I really feel like we're sharing the goodness of Africa and the beauty of Africa with everybody. For a long time, we were made to believe that nothing good comes from Africa, that Africa's all about war, it's all about famine, it's all about corruption. But there's so much more to Africa than that. It's actually exciting, the potential of the continent, and it's already amazing things are already happening, and I'm just so privileged to be a part of that. Looking around and seeing what's happening definitely inspires me to do what I do and also do more. I'll give you a personal quote that changed my perception. I had this client, he was a jewelry designer. He's Nigerian but living in LA, and he had this amazing jewelry brand in Beverly Hills. His name was Chris Eyre, and they used to call him the Iceman. And it's because he used to make all these amazing pieces. In fact, he still does. What am I saying? He is still a jeweler, and he came from nothing. He's not your average legacy European watch brand, but he made watches. He made them so beautifully that everyone wanted to wear them. He put jewelry on the catwalks, on the runways, as if it was fashion. And he just did it so effortlessly and so elegantly as well. And he was my client in the UK. I was his PR. When I moved to Nigeria, he had also started doing some work on his brand in Nigeria. So he carried me along a bit and introduced me to a lot of people, the press, the society. I'm very grateful to him for that. And one quote that he gave me, which I'll never forget, is that there's no success without successors. So how can you be successful if there's no one coming up after you that can continue the legacy? And that may not be your children. It may just be somebody that you've worked with or somebody that you've inspired along the lines. And we all know that if you're building something great, you don't want it to die when you die. You want there to be a legacy brand. All of these European brands that exist for hundreds of years, it's not just one solitary person that's behind it. They've built something that has been so inspiring that everyone wants to continue it for them, whether it's family members, whether it's a loyal team member or investors, whatever it is, it still exists to today. You can look at luxury leather goods brands like Hermes. It's a family brand that has existed for legacy. And when you think Hermes, you think French chic. When you think of L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, all of these heritage brands, they've been around for over centuries, some of them. And I wanted to build an African legacy brand. That to me is my concept of having successors. So even if my kids say they don't want to have anything to do with R&R Skincare, they want to go and forge their own path, I'll be fine with that. But so long as R&R Skincare doesn't die when I do. I think some of the misconceptions about the beauty industry are kind of universal. You know, what we show on social media is always the highlight reel. It's always the best parts. And when people do kind of try and show the negative parts or them crying, people say, you took the time to film yourself crying, what's wrong with you? But people are showing the vulnerable side of things. Or when you're in the midst of a problem or a fire, you're not busy filming it, so people don't get to see that is happening. So a misconception is perhaps that everything is so easy and it's just handed to you and you just create this product and the customers are going to come and they're going to buy and you're going to become a millionaire. You're going to watch people on your website, thousands of people buying the moment you put a product out. But that's not the reality. You have to put in a lot of legwork to even get a viable product to sell to anybody. And then you've got to bring the customers in. And how are you going to do that? It takes a lot of work, a lot of research. People don't see all of that. They just see that you've got this brand and you're in Atlanta today and you're in London tomorrow and you're in Paris the week after. They don't know that it's me spending my money or being invited out to do a talk and then I'm going to make the most of it while I'm there and create a pop-up and build some revenue for the brand while I'm there and just making the most of each situation and leverage as much as possible. Leverage is key, Whatever situation you're in, make sure that you leverage as much as you can out of it. If I've been flown out to speak on a panel, I'm going to make sure that while I'm there, I'm having meetings or I'm selling products or, doing something to make the most out of that one opportunity. And that's where you're going to go far. But in terms of misconception, people might think that everything comes easy to me, but they'd be mistaken. They could come and give it a try and see how they find it. The people that think my business is successful because I'm the president's daughter, or I was the president's daughter, I'd say that I understand why they would think that and why they would feel comfortable thinking that. I think that people come from a place of trying to make sense of why life is different for different people. What I just want to remind them is that I started this brand in 2010. Hopefully, if you've heard my story today, you've heard the ups and the downs and my background and my lifestyle, and this didn't come out of nowhere. Very privileged and very grateful to be his child, and I've learned a lot from the man himself. and he's a great fan of the brand. He sticks to the same products and wears the same things, same perfume, same soap for decades, but he absolutely loves R&R. He uses it himself, and I'm grateful to him for that. But outside of that, of being a support system, I built this brand myself from day one and continue to build it with the help of my team and now investors. And I let people think whatever they want to think, whatever their opinions are, and not my business. My business is taking this brand to the highest level that I can possibly take it and focusing on that. Everything else is just background noise. When it's all said and done, I think I wanted to be remembered as being firm but fair. I want people to remember me as that woman that created something from nothing. I want them to remember me as that lady that built a brand that has lasted for many, many, many years. I want them to remember me as somebody that didn't do it alone, that I carried people along with me and created opportunities for others and livelihoods for others. I want to be remembered for the impact that I've had on the industry and on my continent. My name is Valerie Obazi. I'm the CEO of R&R Skincare, and you've just seen and heard the wonders that got me here.